Why don't we do this, Jim? Why don't we hold that off, and we'll get to the network at the bottom of the hour. Let's talk to Elise Stefanik right here, though. Elise, of course, announcing this morning that she will run for governor here in New York. Elise, how are you this morning? Congratulations.
I am great, Paul. It's great to be on your show. My family has been listeners for years.
I know that. That's very nice of you. I know your folks always tell me that, and I always appreciate it, and we appreciate you coming on. Now, I'm curious about a couple of things. Number one, this is something I know you spent the last 6 months working on. Tell me a little bit about what the major thoughts were the last 6 months, and what you'd have to overcome, and what the obstacles would be that you have to get to work on right away.
It's a really important question, Paul, because as you know, New York State is traditionally a blue state, and we have struggled, although Lee Zeldin came very close in 2022 when he came within 6 points, only 300,000 votes short, and really defied all the prognosticators and did a great job. We wanted to make sure that the data and our ability to turn out votes, that we did a deep dive. And what was interesting was all the regions in New York State, whether it's on Long Island, in the city, in the Hudson Valley, upstate urban or upstate rural, Western New York or the North Country, in every single region, Kathy Hochul is underwater. She is the most unpopular elected official in the entirety of New York State. That is why she endorsed Mamdani, because she's trying to coalesce the Democrats who she does not yet today, according to polls, and she's seeing the same numbers we are, she doesn't have the majority of Democrat voters, even as the incumbent Democrat governor. So she's desperately trying to do this. We started this process even before the mayor's primary in New York City, and the twists and turns of that race, I thought it was important to see how that settled out and what the outcome was. Right. And now you have the most radical socialist, defund the police, full-blown communist who was just elected in New York City. But this was not a mandate. He barely broke 50%, and that's saying a lot. That means that almost the majority of New Yorkers voted against him in the city. That has never happened for recent Democrat nominees who typically get 70% of the vote.
Okay,
we believe there's a coalition of Republican independents and Democrats.
Okay, let me stay with Hochul for a minute. Are you, and I'm sure you've gone over every inch of this, are you convinced that she'll be the candidate?
It's funny you ask that, Paul, because we're already hearing chirping from the Democrat side. First of all, people who are refusing to endorse her. It is not a well-kept secret in Albany that among Democrat state senators that she's widely known as the weakest governor. I still believe she will be the nominee. She is trying to hang on as much as possible. But even in the last 24 hours, she was heckled in Puerto Rico when people that should vote for her in the left, they're heckling her to increase taxes. And by the way, she has raised taxes, and certainly she's never cut taxes. So she's in a really difficult political spot, whereas we're able to coalesce the vast majority, over 90% of Republicans, were winning independents and peeling off a fair percentage of Democrats.
Right. Did it surprise you that she endorsed Mamdani and he didn't offer an endorsement in return?
It was politically toxic for her, but they made the calculation because she is not even close to getting 50% of Democrat voters, and that is a catastrophic number for a seated Democrat incumbent governor. They made the political calculation that they were going to bend the knee to the far left, do whatever it takes. And we're going to make sure New Yorkers know that at an opportunity when the governor should have showed strength, to deliver common sense, to stand up for our values, not just in New York City, but all across New York, common sense. Instead, she bowed to the communist. And it's going to make New York more unaffordable and less safe.
Okay. Is there, when you look at it, when you guys, you and your team around you took a look at this, did you see anybody, did a name jump out at you, Elise, that may be able to take her down in the primary, or did no name jump out?
You know, Delgado, I believe, is going to perform better than is expected. Hochul is an accidental governor. She's only in that position because she was lieutenant governor. This is someone who was fired after her first term in Congress. You know, as someone who has been reelected 6 times, and we've put up overwhelming numbers, not just from Republicans, but independents and Democrats, as I said. We have a broad coalition. She was fired from Congress for a reason, because she puts New York families last. And these catastrophic numbers are very politically perilous for Kathy Hochul. And the single most important issue is affordability, and New Yorkers know that under Kathy Hochul's leadership and 2 decades of single-party Democrat rule, New York is the most unaffordable state in the nation. Highest taxes, highest utility prices, highest energy prices, highest grocery bills and rent.
Right. Lee Stefanik is with us. You mentioned Lee Zeldin. As you know and your family knows, I was around for the Pataki win in '94, and I watched the Zeldin race because I was comparing a lot of things from '94 to 2022. What did you take from 2022 in the Zeldin race that is got to be fixed in the next year by your campaign so you can win?
Lee Zeldin and I were elected the same year in Congress in 2014. He ran a great race. He showed what is possible when so few people believed. And Lee Zeldin worked to crisscross the state. I think there are a few lessons. Number one, we don't have a strong Republican apparatus outside of Long Island. The members of Congress, like myself, have had to build that from the ground up. So when I first ran, Paul, there isn't a super strong infrastructure in terms of grassroots, volunteers, door knocking, really sophisticated campaigning, reaching to voters digitally, on the phones, via text. We had to build that, and I think that was a realization that we saw in Zeldin's campaign, that we need to do a better job of that upstate. And also the numbers it was underperformance upstate, and we have to boost those numbers to counterbalance other regions of the state. Kathy Hochul's not going to win upstate New York. Kathy Hochul is not going to out-upstate Lee Stefanik. She will lose her home county of Erie County. We've looked at the numbers there, and that was a county that she won in 2022. So Zeldin, again, did a tremendous job. I remember his rally in Rensselaer County that was, over 10,000 people. It was amazing. I was just there last weekend doing an event. People are energized. They see that we came close. We can get this done.
I noticed, you mentioned the GOP outside of certain parts of New York. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but the New York Post this morning, in their lead editorial, it's entitled, "New York City Needs a Real GOP." And the first thing I thought of when I saw that, Elise, we're talking to Elise Stefanik, it's 9:06. The first thing I thought of when I saw that headline was, here you are today, probably at the time, this is 4 o'clock, going to announce you're running for governor. And you're almost going to have to build the coalition within that's not there. It's like a double whammy, Elise. Are you guys going to be up to that, where you have enough people around you to be able to overcome that?
We are. I mean, people forget, Paul, when I first ran, I was a total underdog. No one knew who I was, and we built it from scratch. This was a district that no one thought I could win a primary, let alone a general, and we blew it out of the water and won by historic margins and have put up the highest number of votes. I think there are clearly pockets in New York City, particularly in the outer boroughs, that where we saw Trump got 34%, Zeldin got over 30. So we need to turn out those votes. The other coalition that is important in the city is all those both Cuomo and Sliwa voters that made up that near 50%. Those are opportunities to reach them. People that do not support this radical takeover of the traditional Democrat Party by the socialists, which is what Mamdani represents. You have some city council leaders that are very strong and have a good infrastructure that we're going to work with.
All right, let me come back to Mamdani. You mentioned him a couple of times. I'm curious about really just one thing for now, because he hasn't been in office yet. We do have his record as an assemblyman. But he's told everybody he's going to give you free this, free that, and everything for free. Is it a problem for the Stefanik campaign if he goes into office and doesn't do what you think he's going to do? He pivots and he does things in a more normal or capitalistic way, or you don't expect that?
Well, look at his speech on election night. This was an opportunity to have a unity speech. I've had lots of election nights, and it's about coming together. This is not what we saw from Mamdani. We saw a full-bore socialist who is going to hold Kathy Hochul hostage to get what he wants, i.e. tax hikes, i.e. turning his back on law enforcement. You're going to continue to see a mass exodus from the NYPD. And it's going to be very perilous for New York City. And that's one of the reasons I'm running, is you need to have a healthy state. That includes a healthy New York City, a safe New York City, a thriving New York City, and you need to have a thriving upstate New York. And Kathy Hochul has failed on both counts.
Okay, that's enough of about the campaign with Elise Stefanik. Let's talk about Governor Stefanik. What's got to be done right away in New York when you take office, Elise?
Number one, you have to cut taxes. This is the highest tax burden. If you go through the laundry list of the taxes New Yorkers are paying, it is absurd. It is more than any other state in the nation. Number two, you need to lower energy and utility prices. We have had decades of failed rule when it comes to energy policies, whether it's the blocking of fracking or whether it's this insane gas stove ban that will end on day one when I'm there. You also need to do a full audit of the bloated budget, which is absolutely out of control. And these are hard-earned New York taxpayer dollars, whether it's the billions of dollars that Kathy Hochul is giving to illegals for social services. Meanwhile, hardworking New Yorkers are paying for that, or so much of the slush and the waste, fraud, and abuse. You also have fundamental mismanagement of very important programs like Medicaid. And this is decades of decay. So I think a full assessment of the budget is, the number one priority in terms of getting the fiscal house in order.
As far as you're going to have a lot of work to do with the coalition, but I know the people around you, and they'll get that done for you. But at the same time, you almost at some point during the next 12 months, if you haven't already, you have to start thinking, can I drag enough people in here so I can recapture the New York State Senate? Have you looked at things like, because you're going to need at some point one of those houses to come through for you, or am I wrong?
Well, first of all, the governor has outsized leadership in the budget process, and I've talked at length with Governor Pataki about this, and the governor's priorities as a reflective of the people of New York, they run that process. Hochul has been very weak in how she has addressed the budget process. That's what the Democrat state senators say, that she's not quite able to extract what are her priorities, and they're able to kind of hold her feet to the fire for whatever far-left proposals they have. We're a believer that down ballot, these state Senate races are very important. And this is what we've done in my district in the 15 counties. We've worked with county candidates, local candidates, state candidates, judge candidates to make sure that a rising tide lifts all boats. We've, had great success across the 15 counties, and that's the model that needs to be taken across the state. So you're right, Paul. I mean, we are rebuilding the apparatus, much like Pataki has to do, working closely with Bill Powers, as well as running for governor, because you have to have the apparatus to have a successful campaign.
I've mentioned here many times, Fred Dicker has too. I know you've spoken of Fred. But one of the things I remember the most about 94 that I've impressed upon people over the years is the idea that they were really concerned about election night. The concern within the Republican apparatus in 94 was election night and the shenanigans that went on. And I know that when you look at the Zeldin race 2 years ago, it seemed as though all of a sudden out of the blue on election night, Queens County and these other counties started coming in for the Democrats. Is that something that you guys have looked at, or is that not a concern of yours?
Look, I've been on the ballot, and we have dealt with election integrity issues even in the district. And you need to have a strong legal strategy, a strong election security strategy, particularly when the Democrats have tried to rig the system. Kathy Hochul has tried to rig the system multiple times, whether it's her illegal gerrymandering, whether it's limiting the counties to traditionally Democrat counties where you can bring election cases or lawsuits. And then, of course, you have Tish James weaponizing the AG's office. So we are very focused on making sure that we have an integral, safe, secure election and having a strong team of attorneys to put together the plan both before and after.
All right, there's one more thing I'm really concerned with, and I'm not trying to freak you out or scare you. You're beyond that now anyway. But we're talking to Elise Stefanik. But I'm looking at New York now. You mentioned a couple of things along the way here which really have my attention. One of them is fracking, okay, which people don't even talk about it anymore, Elise. It's remarkable. But people don't even talk about fracking anymore and what a difference it can make for the economy in New York State. Have you thought about the idea that there's so much, we're so vulnerable right now in New York to getting to a much more leftist type of government that somebody's got to step in here. It's really important that you win to step in here and regenerate conversation about things like fracking and rebuilding our infrastructure. Is this something that you've taken on, you and your team?
Yes. Yes, and energy is going to be a key issue because, of course, it is tied into the economy. It's one and the same. And you go across the border, Paul, to Pennsylvania, these small towns are booming. The energy sector has created tens of thousands of good-paying jobs and has made energy available and affordable. You go to New York in the southern tier, it is hollowed out.
Right.
People are losing out on economic opportunity, and we all remember why we have the fracking moratorium. It's because when Cuomo was governor, he kind of held it over New York and said he would announce after the election, pretending he would give us fracking, and then he put the moratorium. Much like Kathy Hochul when she had the commuter tax, when she said, oh, no, I won't put it in place until after the election, or I'm not going to put it in place, and then she increased taxes after the election. But we're going to run on energy as part of our economic platform.
And getting to fracking will be important to you, right?
Yes. Frack, baby, frack.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Hey, tell me a little bit about how you get started here, because I've seen this morning a lot of TV commercials. You guys were quite prepared. What do you do now? You're going to do the Blitz this week, today, and over the weekend? Talk to me a little bit about your strategy in the next 96 hours.
Well, the good news is I have a decade of experience working with Republicans and various leaders across the state. So I'm honored to announce the endorsements of 74% of the weighted vote of Republican county chairs. Strong support from the Conservative Party. You're going to see more Republican elected officials endorsements today. This is a very unified effort. And these are races that we've been engaged with, not just this past cycle, but as I said, for the past decade, we work those congressional seats, so we know the regions of New York. I'm going to continue crisscrossing. I was in New York City last night, drove back up to Saratoga. I'm here today. We will be all across the state in the coming weeks, and people are excited. They want a vision and someone to vote for and an alternative to Kathy Hochul's failed rule. And I know there's been a lot of focus on the local elections. People are going to come out next year to vote against Kathy Hochul, and we will turn out those lower propensity voters because we have, in my district, we have the highest turnout of any congressional district in New York State. The rest of the day today, Paul, I'm doing different interviews in different media markets. You're the first one in the Capital District, which I'm excited about. And I'll be talking to lots of folks and lots of voters.
I agree with you. I think people are excited, too. Best of luck to you, Elise, and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. We'll do it in studio next time.
Okay. We'd love to do that. Thank you so much. Elise Stefanik, everybody. There we go.